Imagine for a moment that you have a family member that goes missing. Maybe it's a sibling, maybe even your son. After they go missing, you're searching their social media and you find that the last post from them was made to Snapchat. It's a selfie of them with a caption that says, "I got bad news. Bad, bad news." That's exactly what's going on in today's case. We have a mother and 5 siblings wondering what's going on with their missing loved one. We have a very caring community trying to step up, helping with searches, and now we're going to increase that community with you. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Abdullahi Sharif. Welcome to BrainScratch Searchlight. This is the show where we profile missing persons cases. I'm your host, John Lorden. Thank you so much for spending some time with me here today. This case takes place in Des Moines, Iowa. If you have friends or family there, please share this video with them. This is a case where we've got a decent amount of detail, but the leads seem to point nowhere. And raising exposure, I think, is our best weapon in terms of trying to attack this case. So please keep that in mind as we're going through the details here today. Des Moines, Iowa is the capital and most populous city in the U.S. state of Iowa. It is also the county seat of Polk County. The city's population was 216,853 as of the 2018 population estimate. Now, the young man that has gone missing there is Abdullahi Sharif. He is also known as Abdi. He is 18 years old. He's just a senior in high school. He was reported missing January 17th, 2020, so we're coming up on 2 months, of course. Big cause for concern with that. He stands at 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs 120 pounds. He has black hair and brown eyes. He was last seen wearing khaki pants and a red shirt. And if that seems familiar to you, it's because every time you go to Target, you see that. He actually was a Target employee, and that's going to kind of factor into the details here today. But he also had a black jacket that was on. They've got contact information. Of course, I have that on the screen right below. So if you have any information to help the Des Moines Police Department, please use that phone number and put that information into play. Starting with this picture here, this is the last known picture. This is taken from the Target security cameras there. You can't really see that he's got the red shirt on, but he told his family he was going in to work a shift. Some of them have confirmed in other reports that I've seen that he was indeed wearing a red shirt. So you can't see it in this snapshot because he's got, looks like almost a navy blue sweater that is zipped up, and then he's wearing a jacket outside of that. And that should be another big indicator for you. We've got some pretty big weather concerns in this area, which of course raises the risk when you have someone go missing like this. But let's do a quick press release that came out at WhoTV.com. According to the Des Moines Police Department's Facebook page, 18-year-old Abdullahi Abdi Sharif was last seen at Merle May Mall on the evening of January 17th. Family members and police have been trying to locate him but have been unsuccessful. Police say Sharif is 5'4", weighs 120, last seen wearing a dark-colored winter coat, khaki-colored pants, and tennis shoes. We can also see from this photo the tennis shoes are kind of a darker blue and have a very thick white sole. Just taking a quick look at the map, we can see this is the area where the target was, where he is working at the Merle Hay Mall. It's at the cross streets of Douglas Ave and Merle Hay Road. If we kick to satellite view, first of all, we've got a mall, so we know tons of cameras in there. We've already got a shot from the target where it looks like he's near the front of the store. So we know that police investigators are likely looking for cameras along this area. And just looking at this cross section of these streets, there's a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, different restaurants. I think there's a lot of opportunities for cameras here. Unfortunately, that's going to add to the mystery a little bit because it seems that the investigators are saying they're not finding a whole lot of activity on the cameras for tracking his movements that day. Now, this was a particularly snowy day. As a matter of fact, he was off from school for a snow day. So could that be kind of hampering the camera investigation? Maybe, but it also at least leads me to theorize that he might have gotten a ride. I don't know if he was picked up. Some people are speculating that he might have taken a bus. Apparently in this area, if you are a middle school or high school student, you're able to use the bus system for no charge. You do have to scan your ID. They do have cameras on the buses. We're not getting any official information that they have a sighting of him on a bus. So I'm kind of leaning more towards the fact that someone might have been picking him up. But let's go ahead and continue with more information at Fox 17. It's been days since a now wary Fadumo Ahmed last saw her 18-year-old son, Abdullahi Sharif. 4 days, never sleeping, never anything. Oh my God, said Fadumo. He is also known as Abdi. Please keep that in mind. Last seen on surveillance video Friday night at Target. It's a place that he's worked at for nearly 2 years. Investigators say Abdi's cell phone is either off or disabled. Of course, that's another factor in this. When we look back at that photo, he's literally got the cell phone in his hand. He's got earbuds that are in as well. So we know as of when this photo is being taken, it's probably pretty reasonable to assume his cell phone is on. I guess he could have it in airplane mode or something like that and still be using it for local media. But we're going to get some more phone information as we go on through this. They say evidence shows Abdi spends time at 3 places almost exclusively. His job at Target, with family at home in Des Moines, and at Roosevelt High School, where he is a senior. As I've been looking into today's case, I've really been trying to think back on when I was 18 and what was important to me. And I think they're really nailing this here. I mean, he goes from work to school to his job at Target, and they could pretty much tell those are the main 3 places. I mean, remember when you're 18, especially if you don't have your own vehicle, your world can be extremely small, and that's kind of what we're hearing here. There's a lot of interviews that have kicked out from people at the school that know him. Even the principal has been interviewed. Everyone is being very clear. They don't think this is a kid that was a troublemaker of any kind. He didn't seem to be falling in with a bad crowd. They don't think there's any drug use or anything like that going on here. So that's what really raises cause for concern, because we have something strange that happened to him. All of a sudden, he's gone missing, and the 3 main locations where he spends all his time, he's not in any of those. So something else is certainly at play, but at least from the social information I'm seeing out there, it doesn't seem like it would be kind of some of the typical things we see in missing persons cases. While the surveillance video of Abdi seen Friday at Target is a starting point, police say what's giving them the most problem is his lack of presence on social media. It's something extremely rare for a teen in this digital age. The troubling piece for us is there is nothing we can find in his background at home or at school that would indicate he's got any reason to take off or anything that he's running with the wrong crowd. Nothing like that. And that is a quote from the Des Moines Police Sergeant Paul Perizek, who has kind of been the media-facing person, kind of spokesperson for this case directly to the media. We're going to see a lot more quotes from him as we go through this. Continuing over at the Des Moines Register, Des Moines police found evidence that a missing 18-year-old man's absence is voluntary after a search over the weekend. Another quote from Paul Perizek here. We have found evidence that indicates his absence is voluntary. Unfortunately, they're not being very clear about what that information is. So we'll see if we can kind of make sense of that as we're going through the details here. I kind of have a few theories on what it might be. Taking recent weather conditions and his apparent lack of supportive resources into consideration, we are concerned about his welfare. This is another one of those cases. I mean, he does have a job, so we know he's able to make money. It seems like his bank accounts have not been touched. Cell phone has not been turned on since. So definitely a lot of cause for concern here. Continuing at BusinessInsider.com, much better close-up of Abdi's face here, so please keep that in mind. And at this article, we're going to hear a little bit from his sister, Ifra Mohammed. Nearly 2 weeks have ticked by since Sharif disappeared after walking out of the Target in the early evening of Friday, January 17th. He's a great brother, Mohammed said. She described him as a gregarious, funny kid who worked at Target to support his family and often pitched in to watch his younger siblings. Along with his older sister, Muhammad, Sharif has worked at the Target in the Moral Hay Mall for around 2 years. So a little bit of an important detail there. I haven't heard if she was actually working that day or not. It doesn't seem like she was. January 17th was a snow day in Des Moines, so the teen had the day off from Roosevelt High School. Sharif's mother drove him to the mall that evening after he told her that he'd been called in for a shift. He asked her to come back to pick him up at 9:30 p.m., but Sharif's loved ones say that neither he nor Muhammad were scheduled to work that night. So there we get a clear indication that his sister wasn't scheduled to work. This information makes it sound like his mom is taking him there in the evening. Other information we're going to review kind of shifts that back into around noon, actually, when she takes him into work, which kind of makes this even stranger, but we'll get to that when we hit that source. So there's also a family friend named Emily Levine that is helping with this case. You'll also see her a lot as we're going through these articles. His sister, Muhammad, and Levine are attempting to access Sharif's Apple account to access data recording his phone location. Despite their request for expedited access, they say Apple has told them that they may not be able to get into the account until February 20th. And this article is written back on January 28th. So a little bit of a delay that's going on there. I don't want to, knock Apple necessarily, but I'm just curious why a missing persons case of this nature doesn't kind of get expedited. According to Muhammad and Levine, Sharif did post a Snapchat while at the Target on Friday referring to bad news. The post has baffled those closest to him, and they are uncertain what he was alluding to or whether or not it had anything to do with his disappearance. Now, in the forums that I've seen on this case, Web Sleuths has a good thread going on. There's been a few other places, but I'm seeing people kind of theorizing what's going on in this young man's life that he would be considering bad news. A lot of people are under the assumption, did he lose his job at Target? And they might have some reason to believe that because when the family actually spoke to Target, Target is saying, we didn't have him scheduled to work that day. Now, the story, it seems like he tells his family, is that he got called into work that day. So possibly he could be covering someone else's shift. I'm kind of wondering if that means he wouldn't have been on the official schedule and maybe it's kind of being misreported that he didn't actually work that day at all. But I can't find a definitive answer on that. So we just got to kind of keep that in mind. But other things that could be going on in his life, we know this is his senior year. Is he applying to colleges? Some people are speculating, maybe he got a denial letter to a college or something and that kind of upset him. Is there something else going on here? Is he possibly in a relationship and something is going bad in that relationship or something along those lines? We really don't know. We've got this very, very vague post, but it's the last post right before his phone goes off and all of a sudden we don't see him again. So the question of, is it really related to his disappearance? While we can't conclusively say yes, a lot of things are pointing towards there might be some relation between that post and his disappearance. Muhammad and Levine have also expressed worry about the teen's health. In his absence, Sharif has missed weekly shots needed to treat his allergies. So once again, we're just seeing a lot of patterns that he would normally be doing in terms of taking care of his family, taking care of himself, being there for his siblings, helping his mother. All of a sudden, all that stuff stops on a dime. Levine and Muhammad have gained access to the missing teen's Snapchat, Facebook, emails, and bank account. They said they haven't found anything that sheds light on why he disappeared or where he is now. Continuing at kcci.com, this is their local channel 8, who I just want to call out for doing a lot of coverage on this case. They've done a lot of video segments, a lot of online coverage. I really appreciate that they're trying to help this family like this. The Des Moines Police Department announced Wednesday it isn't ruling out foul play in the case. Quote, I've had people say to me, he's an adult. What if he just decided to leave? Well, if he's an adult and decided to leave, that's okay, but there is nothing here to indicate that's what happened, said Sergeant Paul Parizek. There is now a $5,000 reward, also kind of a sweet story behind that. We've got the community starting to rally support around the family. We've got a particular business owner, a business that he would frequent, that steps up and contributes a large sum of money. So we get this $5,000 reward in play now. Police have called this case baffling. They spent hundreds of hours on it and still can't locate video footage of Sharif after he left Target. So once again, that's pointing back to what I was talking about earlier. I think we have to assume there has to be a vehicle at play here. If he had gone walking down the street, from what I can see with all the businesses in that area, they would have certainly picked him up on another camera, and it doesn't seem like we have that happening. We keep checking back to see if Sharif's phone powers on, Parizek said. We keep checking back to see if we get a ping or a blip somewhere, and we're going to keep doing that until we get those answers. Police also said there's been no online banking or social media activity from Sharif. Sharif's mother said she spent the last 12 days crying in her son's room. It's very heartbreaking to know what families go through in cases like this. Continuing at the Des Moines Register, it's been over a month. Now the family is taking matters into their own hands while continuing to work with police. With a private investigator hired and a search party planned in Des Moines on Friday, Fadumo Ahmed, Sharif's mother, hopes her son will finally return home. This article is going to give us, I think, a much better timeline in terms of what's going on that day. Ahmed remembers it was snowing when she dropped off Sharif, 18, at Target for work at 1:20 p.m. So I was wrong. It's a little bit afternoon. January 17th. He was scheduled to work until 5:30 p.m. Now, it's a little strange to me. We have this article coming out later, and it's saying that he was scheduled to work. The earlier articles are saying he wasn't actually scheduled that day. So I don't know if this is just being told from the perspective of his mother, and she was told that he was supposed to work. But even for that, the other research I'm seeing says that he told her he was called in to work to cover someone's shift because he should have been in school that day, but it was a snow day. So, I don't know. It's weird because I think this is a better timeline, but there's some information in here where I'm like, I don't know which way to go with this. The last time she would speak to him was around 5 p.m., right before Sharif's shift would have ended, updating Ahmed that he was going to work until 9:30 p.m. So what's interesting to me here is if he's lying about the first block of time that he was actually going in to cover someone's shift, what is he doing for, almost 4 hours there? Now, it is a mall, and he is 18 years old. So it could be that he just wanted to go hang out. Or maybe he has some friends at Target and he wanted to go hang out with them. I don't know. But we know that by around 5:30 or so, he's certainly at the Target because that's where the footage comes from. But lying to your mom like that and then extending it to 9:30, saying that you're going to work later. And at that point, regardless of if we're right or wrong about him actually working at Target for the earlier part of the day, we know he certainly is not working at Target from 5:30 until 9:30. So he's definitely not being upfront with his mom about what's going on there. Why? I don't know. At 9:20, Ahmed found herself once again in the Merle Hay parking lot. At 9:30, she called him. His phone was off. She kept calling as the minutes passed, and he never came out of the store. She remembers that she was mad at him, thinking her son went somewhere without telling her. And I don't think we can deny that. I think we certainly have that going on in this situation, especially with him telling her that, hey, I'm working here for another amount of hours, and effectively leaving within about 30 minutes of when that phone call happens. So it seems to me he knew he wasn't working. Around 10 p.m., Ahmed went into the Target. There, she claims Target employees informed her that he had left when his shift ended at 5:30. Once again, I don't know why these reports are so different in terms of him having a shift or not having a shift, but I kind of think it's a moot point. What's really important is that is a clarification. His shift was certainly not extended until 9:30, and on top of that, we have footage of him leaving at about 5:30. Police obtained surveillance videos of Sharif leaving the store around 5:30. It looked like he texted someone and then put his phone away, as well as his headphones. Police were able to trace him via surveillance video walking across the parking lot toward the street and then finally into the AT&T parking lot nearby. That's the last sight of him. So a little bit of different detail here. It seems like they're still getting this, I think, likely from the target cameras. Let's just kick on the satellite view here, because you've got target, you've got this big open parking lot, and you have, it doesn't look like it'd be an incredibly long walk. I mean, just about a block to where the AT&T store is. So I think that's the front of the target. It could be that some of those cameras might pick up him walking off that distance. I don't know. It's possible that they also picked up some other cameras. I mean, if we know that he walked over there, he likely would have walked by this Taco John's, this Verizon, this US Cellular. So I'm thinking they would have had to have picked up some other cameras where there's foot traffic of him walking over to the AT&T store. But then, like, let's say if they did at this US Cellular and they had footage of him in the parking lot at the AT&T store, why don't they know what happens next? Does he get into a car? Does he go into the store? Does he go to one of the bus stops that's around here and jump into a bus? Actually, there's one showing right here at the actual parking lot for the AT&T store. So I'm curious why we now have this level of detail. It's a little bit more, but we still don't quite know what happens after that point. Of course, I mentioned at the start of this episode an amazing community, and we see that right from the get-go. With the first volunteer search, they have more than 100 people come out to help look for Abdi. The search party gathered at Freedom Blend Coffee, located on MLK Parkway and Hickman Road, and fanned out in a 3-mile radius. According to authorities, his cell phone last pinged January 17th at 5:47 p.m. near the cell tower by Broadlawns Hospital. So that's another piece of information. We now have the target over here. We know the AT&T is right about here, but Broadlawns Hospital is way over here. We're talking almost 4 miles away in terms of the road distance. So they've been searching very hard. Here's Hickman Road in this particular area. We know that cell phone towers, I actually just looked at more information again on it today just to see if it had changed. The old information I was running on was that cell phone towers work between like a 3 to 5 mile radius. So with that considered, I wasn't even sure if searching over here would make sense, because target is almost, I mean, it's still kind of within a 5 mile radius for sure. Newer information I'm seeing is particularly with like modern LTE and stuff like that, it's really a 1 to 2 mile radius that you can bank on. But it is pretty important to note there's a big difference between a cell tower ping and GPS information. And they're not saying that they have GPS information that's putting them over here. They're saying it's a ping to a cell tower specifically. So in terms of using that, you really have to work on kind of a big area around that. And that's what they're doing. With this search, they're meeting out at Hickman, and they're doing a 3 mile radius. So they're certainly getting what I would consider their best shot at finding some piece of information about him being there. But we also have to have this other very important consideration, which is, what if he's just driving by? You know, we're not being given information that there was pings for several minutes where we can tell that he was staying at the same location there. We're literally getting his last ping was just in this area. 5:47, you know, if he left Target at 5:37, like they're saying, we're talking 10 minutes to travel 4 miles, but in a pretty significant snowstorm that's going on this day as well. That might not be completely out of the norm. Depending on the road conditions. I know where I live, it can get very, very crazy in snowstorms like that. So I don't know. I get why they're searching here. This is their best bet for finding some trace of where he goes next. But I don't know if he's actually in this area. I don't know if he was in this area for a long period of time. And I don't know if they have information to really support that he was in this area for a long period of time. Of course, on Searchlight, we're always concerned about water sources. We do have a river that is over here as well. From some of the information I'm seeing, they're doing some searches along the river. I believe they've got some dogs that they've also been walking through the river. I don't know if they've done any intensive water searches, side scanning sonar, or anything like that. I'm not finding any reports of that yet. And it could be that as the weather changes, maybe that will give them more opportunity to do things like that. Very concerned that we've got a water source over in this area. But also back to the point I was talking about before. Maybe he was just driving by this area and that's where he shuts off his cell phone. I don't know. And in terms of one of the theories we were talking about, on Web Sleuths in particular, they were talking about if he got on a bus, is there a route that would match this? Some sleuthers there found a route that would seem to match this. Would a bus take that long? Even look at the time that we're seeing here. I mean, this is Google's estimated time currently. They're saying that it'd be 12 minutes between those two distances. So a bus moving that fast at that speed, when you factor in stops and stuff, I don't know if he's getting in a bus here. Once again, I think I'm leaning more towards him being in a private vehicle of some kind. But the community doesn't stop there. Hundreds show up for a second Abdi Sharif search. The search for the missing Des Moines Roosevelt High School student continued Saturday. We're looking for an article of clothing, cell phone, anything to indicate that Abdi was there or that he was in the area, said Democratic Des Moines Rep Ako Abdul Samad. The search parties did not find anything Saturday. Unfortunately, it looks like they didn't find anything in the first search either. Now we know they've done a second search as well. And of course, they're not going to stop there. There is a third search that also happens. Jumping over to NBCnews.com, Abdi's sister, Ifra Muhammad, told Dateline, "My mother is especially worried. She prays every night. Even when I tell her that she should go get some sleep, she continues to pray. We just want to know that Abdi is safe." According to Ifra, Abdi told his family he was called in for a shift at Target that day, so their mother drove him to the mall around noon. It was not unusual for him to be there, Ifra said. He loved working there and would sometimes just hang out, and the mall was in the same area, so he'd spend hours there. Ifra said she knows Abdi was at Target around 5 p.m. because his location data was on when he posted to Snapchat at that time. His snap referred to bad news. So that's what I'm talking about. Location data there, that's different than a tower ping. And here she's able to specifically identify, we know he's at Target when he makes that post. There is also the photo, which the only version I've seen has been really pixelated. I don't know if there's something in the background that can kind of indicate that he's actually in the store at that time. But maybe that's helping the family with that determination as well. But obviously, if he's got location data on and it's saying he's at Target, he's at Target. Abdi later texted their mother and asked her to pick him up from Target at 9:30, but when she showed up, he wasn't there. The family has also hired private investigator Stephanie Kinney, who is working with the police department in the search for Abdi. And I've seen a few things that Stephanie has been doing in terms of helping to organize the searches, going out there on her own. Seems like she's really doing everything she can to try to pull in some information for this family, and I really appreciate that they have someone with them helping in that manner. Back to another article at KCCI. Phone records are bringing new clues. The Des Moines Police Department confirmed to KCCI that subpoenas and search warrants for Sharif's social media are in, and police detectives are painstakingly going through them for clues. Once again, just thinking back to when I was 18 years old, how important high school was to me, that circle of friends. I'd be very surprised if someone in his high school circle or work circle doesn't have some significant piece of this puzzle. And it could be that that's been reported to the police already and they're just not making that information public. But I would very strongly assume that they're investigating and questioning people in both of those circles for this type of information. Because when you're 18, I'm telling you, especially with no transportation of your own, that's a very small world. And I have to believe he was talking to somebody. The family maintains that Sharif must be in danger because he would never leave his mother and family. Stephanie Kinney, a private investigator hired by Sharif's family, spent Tuesday searching Prospect Park in Des Moines. Sharif's phone pinged in the area the day he disappeared. And that is basically, it's a park that's just on the other side of where the hospital is. It's right over here. So once again, totally makes sense to be looking in that area. I'm trying to put what is relevant in this location or why he would be walking or taking a ride in this location, Kinney said. That's another thing, just the distance that he traveled. If this ping is accurate, let's say it was even at the edge of this, 1 to 2 mile radius, he would have had to have gone 2 miles within 10 minutes. He's not doing that on foot in the snow. There's no way. he's definitely in a vehicle. So it's just a matter now of figuring out what vehicle is that and where were they going. And once again, it's just leading me to believe that he might not have even been on foot around this area at all. They could have been driving through when his cell phone was shut off. So, but it is their best bet. Police said that they will not yet reveal the content of the social media records they subpoenaed. I think there might be a very good chance that something could come out of that would also point back to kind of the circle of friends situation that I was talking about as well. Continuing over at Oxygen.com, Des Moines Police Sergeant Paul Parizek told Oxygen he was walking east away from Merle Hay Mall. So that's more confirmation of him walking towards where the AT&T store is. Parizek said that after talking to Sharif's loved ones regarding breakups or possible issues where he would want to end his own life, we weren't really able to check off any boxes for a bona fide explanation for an 18-year-old kid just walking off. So it seems like they're really not getting any strong indicators in either of those directions as well. There are no persons of interest at this time, the officer said. One prevalent rumor was that Target had video of someone running into Sharif with their car, getting out, beating him, getting out and throwing him in the trunk. Parizek called that rumor absolutely false. It's so strange what happens in terms of social media front around cases like this. There was also a T-shirt that was put out. The family wants to be very clear. They have nothing to do with this T-shirt. It talks about Abdi being just as important as Molly, and it's referring to Molly Tibbetts. Family had nothing to do with that. It's just the craziness of what happens with social media when it gets its hooks into stories like this, unfortunately. Over at KCCI, we see there is a third search party scheduled for Sunday. That's actually this past Sunday at Prospect Park at 12:30. I haven't seen any updates since then, so I don't think anything in particular was found. Once again, they're just hitting that same area, doing everything they can to try to find something pointing them in the right direction of where is Abdi. There is a Facebook page. I think this might be managed by the family friend, but I will have a link to this in the description box below. I don't think there's any name as profile built for him yet. Of course, if you guys need any help doing that, speaking to the family or the family friend, please feel free to contact me, john@lordandarts.com, and I will certainly help you guys in terms of getting him entered in a NamUs. There's a few pieces of information I would need to be able to do that for you guys. So perhaps we can work together on that. There is a Facebook page for him, but I'm not seeing a lot on it. His profile pictures, you can see some of the earlier ones are certainly him as a much younger man. And the later ones, he seems to be a fan of chicken. There's a couple of pictures of chicken as his profile picture, then a picture of a cartoon eating a piece of chicken. He then changes his profile picture one more time to this cartoon, but there's really not a whole lot else I'm seeing here. A lot of friend connections. Says his first kiss was in 2012. He got a pet in 2002, but not a whole lot else I'm able to get from this. He does say that he works at the Krusty Krab at Target. There is, like I mentioned before, a great Web Sleuths thread. It's currently going on 9 pages. A lot of good debate and information that's going into that. So you guys, if you want to get into this case more, please be sure to check that out. On top of that, KCCI has pulled together kind of all the different video segments that they've made about this case, and they've put them all in one place. If you want to learn much more about this case, this is an excellent resource. So I'm going to have this at the top of my sources listed down below. There is a message that his friends and family have just in case Abdi is out there somewhere, and I want to share that with you guys right now.
He is not in trouble. His mom loves him. No matter what happened, she want to see him home.
And that is a family friend that's been helping to translate. His mother speaks very little English. And of course, there are many of us out there that want to see Abdi come home. So please, if you can, help me raise exposure to this case. Share this video with your friends and family in the Des Moines, Iowa area. On top of that, there is a GoFundMe that is being run. I know that private investigators are not cheap. They are looking for help in terms of funds for that. On behalf of myself and my amazing supporters on PayPal and Patreon, we are making a donation to the search for Abdullahi Sharif just as soon as I'm done filming today's episode. And I hope that they will use that to keep the private investigator funded, get posters out if they need posters, whatever the family needs to continue this search, because we don't know how long it's going to go on. Before I end today's video, I want to thank several patrons. We've got some new patrons, Sarah Brown and Margaret Brigadier. Thank you so much for joining on Patreon. On top of that, Elizabeth Tinney and Christine Broughton also increased their pledges. If you'd like to support the channel, you can do that at www.lordandarts.com. Thank you so much for caring about these cases like I do. Take care. I'll see you back here on Friday with a brand new episode of BrainScratch on the Lord and Arts channel.